everyone, and welcome to Make and Take. Today, I am so excited to be talking about basic reading. So, basic reading in our district has been, or in our whole state, has been a whole push because we just had a couple dyslexia bills that have gone through, and they want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of every single student. And so, one way to do that is with basic reading. And I know for me, my first year teaching, I had an opportunity to get Orton Gillian trained. And it was a huge, huge training. It was like a year long with lots and lots of work where you had to provide lesson plans. They had to be checked and then they had to have feedback. So it was a really intense process. And then I was also observed multiple different times. And then after the end of that, you take a test to be ALTA and MSLICS like certified. And then every single year since then, you have to get all these hours in order to be maintain that certification. So this is like a huge, huge like push in our district, but also it's a lot for teachers to kind of deal with. And so I was talking with one of our teachers who is amazing. Her name's Ashley, which I'm going to bring up in a little bit. And again, just having those 10 hours every single year of training and having to differentiate all of these lessons for your students because every student is different, every student is at a different concept. Um, it's a lot of work. You're already a spec ed teacher normally, and so you've got IEPs to write, you have classroom instruction, to organize and pull and help the regular ed teachers. And so being a spec ed teacher is a lot. I was there and I quickly got out. Don't know if I would ever go back because of the amount of work, but I really did enjoy those students. And so as Ashley and I were talking, we were talking about how why don't we pull some collaborative lessons that kind of follow the Orton Gillian method for basic reading, and then you as a teacher, you can go in and you're able to change the review list, or you're able to go in to the guided discovery and change one of the words. So you're not changing and creating a whole lesson plan. You're just going in and customizing what you need for your students. So that's going to be kind of this session and this background. So let's go ahead and bring up Ashley. Welcome, Ashley.
Hello.
So Ashley, she is a sixth grade intervention specialist at Harmon Middle School, and she works with the craziest team I think I've ever met. You want to talk about your life a little bit?
Whew. Well, my team is the best team. We're a good kind of crazy. This is my 8th year teaching as an intervention specialist. Basic reading has always been a part of what I teach. And Steph is an amazing resource. So I'm always like, hey, let's make this because it's pretty. And how can we make it for spec ed kids? And because if you teach basic reading, like it's boring. And I think that this way will make it a little more engaging for the kids.
Yeah, and I think too, when you're working with other people as well, you're able to kind of get some other ideas like, oh, I never thought to play trasket ball or whatever people call that, where the kids are throwing the words into the trash can as they're reading them. Like you just think outside the box when you are collaborating with people. So let's go ahead and kind of get started. Right here on this slide, we're going to again talk about kind of Orton Gillian. So we're going to use that approach. And we're going to be talking about a multisensory approach as well. So we know with a lot of research that multisensory works really well because students are hearing it, they're doing it, they're writing, they are using all of their different senses in order to complete different tasks. So we want to make sure that our lesson includes that. And because this is a Google slide, we don't want it to be completely digital. And so we want to keep that in mind as we're creating these different lessons, that it needs to be sometimes on a whiteboard. Sometimes it needs to be maybe on paper or whatever, but we just need to keep that in the back of our mind. So today we're going to learn some tips and tricks. We're going to make a basic reading lesson, which Ashley's going to help me with. And then you can take a lesson. So you can create with us, grab your word list. I know a lot of OG teachers have their binders of books with like words just in them. So make sure you grab those and let's go ahead and try to get started. So we're going to first develop a plan. So right here, I created this template. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a copy of this template. And let me make sure I shared this template correctly because I don't think I have yet. And so I'm going to let you be a commenter so that way you can add comments if you want to, but then you're also able to make a copy of this template. So right here, we've got the phoneme drill. So that is the first part of the roadmap. And then the little worm, he goes across and he does like the blending drill. So this is how the order of an Orton-Gillian lesson is organized. So this is how it's organized for your class, for your students. You can, again, take out, like maybe there is no, let's see here, like you don't want to do, where is it? Like maybe there's no rule, or the rule is something really simple. You could take that out and you could show a video or whatever you want to do. You're able to go in here and customize these slides. And whenever you see this little roadmap pop up, it means there's a new section. Basic reading is typically, or it should be done in a small group setting with Orton-Gillian. They suggest like 1 to 3 students. I know that's not always the case, but they really do suggest a small group student. So it is pretty much teacher led. So a lot of times you are leading the lesson. Also, I thought we could add in extension ideas. So if anybody has additional ideas on how we could help students or provide scaffolds for writing, we're able to provide that in here. And then again, teachers can go, oh, this looks like a really good activity. I'm going to use that today. Okay, so we're going to kind of walk through this as me and Ashley are planning a lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and make a copy. And then I'm going to share this. Oops, let me just restart. And then I'm going to put the concept in the name. So Ashley, what concept do you want to do today?
Let's do C versus K.
Okay, so I'm going to do C versus K, and I'm creating that template. Naming protocols are huge with Orton-Gillian because if you look at like the scope and sequence, there's a ton of concepts that you need in order to kind of be able to understand reading and spelling and decoding and all those kind of things. Okay, so let me share this with Ashley real quick. I know I did, but let me make sure you have the link. And then I'm also going to add this link in the chat. So if anybody is on right now with us, you're able to follow along. Or if you're watching the recording, that link is in the chat as well. Okay, so we've got our concept. First thing, what would you like to do for the phoneme drill?
I like that. Let me see. I like the Google slide that you have already in there.
This one? Okay, so right here, we're going to do a virtual drill. And you could just use your letter cards and just flip through them physically. It's just kind of a placeholder to remind you like that is the next step when you're doing an Orton-Gillian lesson. So right here are digital cards, and you would just kind of go through these. You would just click through. I'd probably put it in present mode. And then Ashley can go in and she can go, oh, I haven't taught EE yet. And she can make a copy of this and she can delete it out of her slide deck. Or she could say, I want my students, to start to learn that word. So she's able to do that as well. Or maybe she doesn't want to try this PEEP activity. So again, all of this is customable for you. She could type in her own words if she wanted, and she's able to do that. So do you want to go ahead and make a copy of this, or do you want to use what's here?
What's there is all things that we have learned already. So that's
okay. So this one's good to go. And again, feel free to make a copy and edit. There are a couple other ones that I've seen on Facebook. There's a couple Facebook groups that you can join, and they sometimes share these templates out. Okay, the next activity is the blending drill. So there's 2 things that I have that are digital. This is a blending board. One of my friends, Nadine, she actually designed this for her students. She has a couple kids. I think she has one daughter who is dyslexic. And so she made this blending board for her kid and for everybody that kind of has dyslexia or like a reading disability. And so with these, you pick what you want on your cards. And then you can add to it every week. So this could be one option for blending. And we have the students add this on their Chromebooks. So it can be a Chromebook app if you have the newest like Chromebook. And then again, your students are able to add those to them. Another activity that Nadine made, and again, she is a great resource for dyslexia, are these little cards. So like you could add cards together, or again, you could do this on paper. What are you thinking, Ashley?
I definitely want to try the blending board or the digital one, but I had a question about those slides.
Oh, wait. This one?
Like the hands on the side,
Mm-hmm.
are those to help like tap it out?
Yeah, so they're there to like kind of remind the kids to tap them out.
That's cool. I like that.
And I think they would do it,
Mm-hmm.
physically, but they're there just to kind of remind them as well.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that one.
The top one.
Oh, the top one, the app.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you would have to do is have your students add the app, and they would just, what I would do is I would just send this link through Hapara or Google Classroom.
Okay.
And they'll add it to their Chrome web browser or their Chrome apps, not web browser. And if there's any issues, it could be blocked. So just let me know.
Okay. Perfect.
And then we'll have to get IT involved. Okay, so that is that one. And this one's nice too, because again, as you're working with your students, they add more letters or more blends to their board. All right, next we have up is review. Okay, so what have you taught your students?
We've done OU, OW, AW, and AU.
So OU, AW, and AU.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we've done OW as well. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, we can add another column if we want. Okay, so let me get rid of these, and then we can start typing in some words for their decodable parts. And we can get rid of columns if we don't need to do as many words since we're adding another column.
Yeah, I think I usually do 5 when I have this many review. But I kind of did, so I did like OU, OW as one lesson. And then AW, AU as another.
And I think too, it's all about your students on review. So, you might want it to be, my kids really get this one and I want them to feel successful. So I'm going to add it in this week. Or they really don't get this this word, and I really want them to focus on it during spelling or whatever you need to do. And that's what's really nice.
My group this year is, it's a 6th grade group, and they're able to handle this together. I wouldn't normally do like OU, OW, AW, AU together. So if like you're new to basic reading, that's not something normally that we would do together.
And then I'm just going to change the font. Okay, and then this should probably be, because we have a lot of digital. So maybe we print out this slide, and the kids could do a sort. I'm trying to think what else I've done in review. They could do trash get ball, where they throw them into a trash can as they read them.
We could do, I know it's digital, but that Connect 4 that you did.
Oh, with Moat?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they could read with Moat.
I like trash get ball though.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. So I'm going to add just like a GIF. Let's see here, maybe basketball. And you could even have the kids read it off the whiteboard. Like if you're presenting this, you could have them read it off there so you don't have to print. And then they would get up and kind of add some movement.
Yeah.
And then I always like to do like they changed their voice. My kids loved it. Like, read OU list as a teacher. Read, and I'm like, I don't sound like that. And they're like, yes, you do, and then you could also do like read the AW list as a principal or as your mom. And so that's kind of fun too. Like I would have them get up and kind of play basketball, but then I would also have them read the words again. So they would do it twice is kind of the way that I made my kids do it. Okay. And then for spelling, we can probably have them do it on whiteboards.
Okay.
And then you can type. So what I was thinking with a teacher is you could type on here the words, like you could use this Google slide as your lesson plan. Or, we could share it with the kids in Pear Deck and they can't see the next slide until you share it with them. So I don't know because we could add actually like the spelling words in here if we wanted to, or we could wait. Like on a paper.
Yeah, I think I like the whiteboard idea. So, yeah, let's just hold off on that.
Okay. And then what like new rote word are they exploring?
From.
And sometimes I use sand, and they would have sand. Like I just had a bunch of toys in my classroom. They could use Play-Doh, they could use whiteboards, and they're just kind of practicing that new word.
I've also have you seen the new Poppet crate, like using Poppets for sensory stuff for OG? I've thought about.
Yeah, like the Pop, FROM. Yeah, I know that's becoming like huge. Yeah. Okay, and so once you've got that, then you're on to guided discovery. So now they're going to listen to Ashley say the new words. So they're listening to the C and the K, and hopefully they find out that, it says that sound through that, but then we're also going to show them. So we're going to go ahead and add like cat. Let's see here. We can add, let's do a K1, Kate. And then maybe crush. And so we're hoping our students can find that, C and the K sound pretty similar. And then we're going to teach them the new roll. Okay. I also like to add this template in. So with this template, students are they're doing an I notice, I wonder, and then they're kind of taking their best guess at like, what is the roll? So they're looking at the C and cat. They're looking at the K and Kate. And hopefully
I don't know if I like Kate though, because it doesn't.
We might need to change that one.
Yeah, let's change it to kite. Or
cat. Kite. Yep. Okay, let's do kite. That's a good idea. Ah. Oh. Maybe. There we go. All right, and then we'll keep crush. And so then again, the students are looking, and hopefully they're looking at some of those vowels to know, okay, maybe it says it when these vowels. And then the rule, and I know you have a really good graphic. And this is, again, where you could type the rule, or you could put a video of the rule, or you could add a nice little graphic to the slide. And then you talk about it with the kids. So C takes A and U, K takes E, I, and you talk about it with your students. And then here they would highlight. So again, you're just kind of copying, and you could take the slides and just copy and paste, or you could just quickly type them in. And then again, I can go in here and I can highlight kind of where we're focusing on. And the kids, they could write this on a whiteboard, and they could circle, they could write it on a piece of paper, and they could highlight. My students loved the bingo markers.
Oh, yeah.
And so they would write out the words, and then they would stamp it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
They loved it. And it was like $1 at the Dollar Tree, worth it. And it wasn't a mess like paint and sand and all those other things. So
yeah, I like that idea.
And then they're going to just practice writing C and K. And I might actually have them kind of practice with the graphic.
That's what I was thinking too, like kind
Just
of
because of
throwing
the
that in their own way. Yeah.
yeah. But if it was a kindergarten student, I might just have them practice writing the C and the K for their handwriting. But this group, I think they can handle the other letters. Okay. And then hands-on, what do we want them to do?
Sorry, I got off the wrong slide.
Oh no, you're good.
They've been really like digging writing on my whiteboard as the teacher. So I think being the teacher at the whiteboard is something that they're really into right now.
And they could even talk about C and K, they could talk about the roles as they're doing it.
Teach the lesson or something. Yeah.
And I feel like for this hands-on activity, it really, really does depend on your kids because there's some kids that hate that. And so you don't want to use it if they hate it.
Right.
Because you want to make it fun. And this is the part where you can make it fun for the kids is that hands-on piece. I know for me, like sometimes we did like popsicle letters. So the kids had popsicle sticks and then they had to create the words with the popsicle sticks. Other times they did sand. The Poppets is a really good activity for the hands-on piece. Trying to think what else we've done. Sketch and tell. So they write the word and then they maybe draw an image for it.
Oh.
We've got some artsy kids. And then in coding, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to create our word list. And sometimes, again, you might have 15 words. You might have 20 words. It just kind of depends on the concept and probably your students. So let's go ahead and type those in. Here. All right, can you think of two more?
Maybe yes. Sorry, Troy is vacuuming the room next to me.
All right, how's that look?
Perfect.
Okay, and then again, well, I would probably print this out and my kids would like go over the rule with colored pencils or markers to kind of show the difference. And I'd probably make like C one color and K another color to help them. Or again, they could just kind of read it. But I love the coding part because then they are practicing the rule. And next up is what says. So what says is it was really hard for my students, I think, this part. And so you say the sound of the letter like ah, and then they would have to write A in the box. So Ashley, I was able to just do this off of memory. Like my kids are struggling with this concept, so I would just do it. Sometimes I would write them down like a list of 10 different sounds that I wanted them to practice. What do you do?
I try to add in like things that we've learned. So we've also done vowel consonant E. So I would probably bring that back at this part because we've done, OU, OW, AW, AU, and then all the vowel consonant E's, and then throw in some short vowels there because if they don't focus on those, then they get lost.
Yeah, and this is a good place too for like the R controlled if you've taught those, like, or any thing like that. It can really help.
Yeah, we haven't done R controlled yet. Let me see.
Okay. We probably want to add our new sound of C and K.
And then let's do O because
perfect.
Short O is.
And so again, the kids would probably use a whiteboard or a piece of paper. Sometimes I created like a lesson template of this on paper. So my students could just type in the boxes where I had them. So those were sometimes nice when I was like, oh, what am I going to do today? Next up is spelling. So we're going to practice that new concept. So let's go ahead and type in some spelling for the kids. And sometimes 10 words is too much for kids. So again, we're just going to do 5 today.
Well, and I also feel like the K and the C, there's only so many, because this group isn't quite to multisyllabic words. So there's only so many
Mhm.
words that you can come up with
Yeah.
before
And
you
then
start repeating them.
once they do learn those multisyllabic, you can add this to review
Right.
and talk about it more. Yeah. And then next is dictation. So that's where the students listen to the sentence, they say the sentence, and then they have to do it. And that was hard for my kids. Like they struggled with that retention piece of like remembering the sentence. And so sometimes we would use the little blocks that you use in math, and the kids would just like put how many words were in the sentence, and then they would be able to recall it. So we could do that activity if your students struggle with the same thing that mine did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the second sentence, is a longer sentence than what we've been using.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of wanted to give them a little bit, push them a
Yeah.
little bit to see. So it'd be interesting to see how well they retain
Mm-hmm.
that.
And then I loved using like the COPS method because I would just kind of go over to them and I would say C, O, P, S, like whatever they were missing. I wouldn't tell them where in the sentence it was missing because I wanted to see my students kind of self-check. And then they would get that feedback from me like, yes, this is good. And I would just like, we usually sat at a U-shaped table. So I would just have my students around and then I would just kind of quickly check in with every single student. So it was a great way to quickly check in with kids and give them that feedback. And again, I wasn't going, kid is wrong. I was saying S, it's the spelling part. So they had to look at their whole sentence and try to figure it out. And then we would, again, if it was kid, I would say, remember that role we just learned? Like, what was it, or whatever. And we'd talk about it. And then I would also have them underline the word. I don't know if you did like any of the.
I haven't, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, I would make that like I
Yeah.
had them highlight, like underline or highlight the words that we just went up to at the end of going over their revisions.
Mhm. I like it.
And then the last, or not the last step, but one of the next steps is oral reading. So this is where the students are going to read a passage, which I believe I don't have access to the passage that you.
Okay, it's a PDF. So
Okay.
I just did I not? Let me share it with you. Sorry, I thought I did.
No, you're good. And there's like so many activities that you can do for guided reading. I've seen teachers use books that they have that are printed out. I've seen teachers add them to a Google slide like I did. I like adding them to a Google slide because the kids can use these tools up here to highlight. You can also print it and they can highlight the words. You can also on here have them use the comment feature and they could say like, I play basketball or whatever they do. And then you're able to have like some comments and they're making connections to text. You can take a screenshot. So did you want both of those?
Yeah, I just put it on there.
Oh, perfect. Look at you.
I was going to put it to the side so you could keep talking about what we were talking about there.
Sorry. There we go. And then again, I would probably print this out so the kids can track with their finger as they're reading each of the words. And so then I would have them highlight the C and K words just to practice that skill again. And then I kind of added this part. It's like a reflection. So at the end of it, and again, this is all based on your time limit with your students. I just wanted to know what my kids learned today. So sometimes they would create a poster or a graffiti wall over the concept. Sometimes they would create a comic strip using those new concepts that they learned. Maybe they would write a letter to themselves talking about the new concept, interviewing another student. And so I like to create like a choice board activity, but sometimes I said like, okay, today we're all going to do a Flipgrid video and we're going to just quickly recall what we learned today. It was a great way to wrap up the lesson. And again, sometimes my basic reading groups, just based on time, took me 3 days.
Right.
And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday was one of my groups. That's a long space in between sometimes for kids to remember concepts. So this reflection piece allowed them to like really reflect on what they were learning. And then the final one is we have like notebooks for our students with basic reading. They like travel with the kid. So I would have my students add their new concept to that notebook. And so with the C versus CK, there's like a page in the notebook and they would fill that out. So it's already printed for them and then they would fill out the part. Is that what you do, Ashley?
Yeah.
And then this is I'm really into like tracking student success because I think when we track and do goal setting, they start to take ownership of their learning. And so right here, the students would go to the level and then they would go to C versus CK. It's right up here. And they would say, oh, I really get it. Or I don't got it. And I still need to practice that concept. And so they're just, again, they're kind of doing a self-reflection here. And they're just saying, yep, I got it. Or I need to review it a lot more. And so that was nice for me to know where they're at. I can make notes. They can make notes if they want to. And they could say, like, I'm really struggling with this, or I got it. This was super easy. And I love to use the spelling as an indicator because if kids can spell these words, they can usually read it.
Right.
But if they can't spell it, then it's like, can they read it? Because sometimes you just don't know.
I really love this self-reflection piece.
Yeah, and it's really nice because up here you can see 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And they can see, okay, I'm almost done with the program, especially for some of our older learners that are like,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in this since first grade and I'm now a sixth grader, you know,
Right.
and trying to show them like, oh, you've learned all of these different concepts. And
Well, I think once they get to sixth grade, or the higher grades, like them being able to go through and say, yeah, I'm a 2 on this,
Mhm.
like before we even start,
Yeah.
I think would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be even a good pretest, you
Yeah.
know. And then down here, they would also click off like the from that we're going to teach. So they could say, yes, they can spell it, or no, I still need to practice it. You know, they can give you that feedback as well. And then you're able to see, okay, I need to put this word back in review. And it's nice for IEP as well. So they would be able to mark off usually 2 of the areas on their sheet. And then I haven't yet, but I need to. This I believe this needs to be broken up into multiple individual concepts. I think it's a lot for a kid to learn this in one lesson. So that is something that I need to start to pull apart. But on like the scope and sequence, it's all one. Another thing that you could do is have your kids highlight. So like they could go in and they could change the color of the word so they know that they've done that one. So if you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to keep it all together, you could. And that's how I had it because on the scope and sequence they are together, and I would just have my kids highlight what they did do.
Okay.
And then at the end of the whole, because I usually did like one of these a week. So and it wasn't like an OG lesson. It was like a quick vocab type of review at the beginning. And then lastly, right here, one of my colleagues and I, we started to create progress monitoring. So as an special education teacher, you have to progress monitor your students on some of these words for their IEP goals. And so what we did, because again, we were like, we can't keep working like this and we need to work smarter. The kids would go in and they would either decode or encode these words. And then we were able to say, yes, they got it. And then we quickly were able to do that. Here's the next list. Here's the next list. Because normally my students had like 3 out of, or I think they had to do like 2 out of 3 with 80% accuracy. And so right here was the list. And I would just print these, have them read it. And these were just really nice, quick check-ins as well if I needed to do like a quick review and just wanted to progress monitor my students.
Yeah, you shared this with me a couple of years ago, that part, and it's a lifesaver because I feel like because everything's so individualized in the spec ed world that we're always recreating, and like stuff like that is just such a lifesaver.
Yeah. And it was nice too because everybody had like the same word list for progress monitoring. So I felt like I was able to compare, apples to apples rather than whatever, or like, oh, this kid got an easier word list. That's why they're IEP, or any of that. I was able to kind of talk with advocates if I had any of them. And then sometimes I needed an extension. So maybe I would add on a writing or maybe add on some comprehension to the reading. And sometimes that was based on my students' IEP goals because I was trying to kill two stones in like one lesson. And so I would have them read this article and then answer some comprehension questions. Or another extension would be they have to write a summary and I would add an image. And Ashley shared these fun images with me. Let me go other account, I think. They're in my school account. Maybe. If I can get to that account. There we go. So right here, I've got all these fun images that Ashley shared. And this would go on that slide. And then the kids would write a quick summary. So this is 8 parts. It's an edgy protocol. And again, the kids would write verbs. They're working on adjectives, nouns. They're working on, so I was able to kind of teach multiple concepts and review because this is like repetition. And then my students were able to write a summary based on their writing. So again, if that was a writing goal, I could just add this right into my basic reading lesson. I could change it. Instead of a photo, they're writing about something on here, and maybe one of the words has to be about the role. It has to include C and K. So I could just make that requirement, and it might be down here instead of a simile, but maybe I wanted to keep that or change the figurative language. I can do all that for my students. All right, we finished our lesson.
Love it. Thank you.
So then after you create your lesson, this is where the take comes into play. And right here, we've got a nice little roadmap. And so you would just go over to whatever level. So we did level 1 today. And then you're going to copy this link and you can share with the gold group, or you can open it up to anybody can view. And then once you have your lesson, just add it to the spreadsheet. So that way we can all work smarter and not harder. And this covered, I need to add another line because we did not cover CK. And so just feel free to insert another line if you need to and add the other concept. And then right here is that one lesson. And then we did from as the word. So I can do that. And then if you wanted to add notes, you could add notes over here for other educators. Or if you have other examples, you could say example 2. And so I think we need to start building out this hub because it is taking teachers a lot of time. And so if you are an Orton-Gillian teacher or you teach any type of basic reading, because I know it's a big push right now, this is one way that I think we can help each other by taking this template and then adding our words, adding our stuff. And I know me and Ashley are going to collaborate a lot on this, hopefully, and we're going to get some of these uploaded and ready to go. Okay. And so thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to throw in the feedback form. So if you need a certificate of attendance, that feedback form is going into the YouTube chat. And then we just also want to say thank you so much for joining us. Ashley, any last thoughts? Or
no,
lesson's done for tomorrow.
I know, that's so exciting. I'm excited that we can get a bank of stuff together so that everybody can just go and grab and change what they need to change. Yeah.
I mean, we've been on for 38 minutes. Half of that was me talking about how amazing Ashley is. So I would say it took probably 20 minutes to get that done. Don't you think?
Yeah. And I think the faster, it always goes faster, the more that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure you start to create these, use our template, figure out what you need to add, and try it. Teach it with your students. All right. Well, thank you, Ashley, so much for providing all of your amazing work and your love for your students and all of your amazing ideas. I appreciate it.
You're more amazing. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope everyone has a great night.